Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Peace and blessings be upon you. In recent developments in Iraq, 2 Americans and an Iraqi translator were killed in an attack south of the capital of Baghdad. Meanwhile, eyewitnesses said that 6 explosions were heard this morning near the perimeter of the coalition headquarters in Baghdad. Eyewitnesses added that this area is under strict security measures. In the city of Baquba, south of Baghdad, 4 Iraqis were wounded by an explosive device in front of the office of the Supreme Council of the Islamic Revolution, led by Abdullah al-Hakim. The party official said that victims sustained light wounds. However, the building was severely damaged from the intensity of the explosion. 3 Lebanese students were transported to hospitals in Beirut, and 2 others were arrested during clashes with security forces, who prevented them from demonstrating outside the campus grounds. The police indicated that police forces and the army were deployed in front of the Jesuit University, St. Joseph, where about 200 students were demonstrating under the banner of eliminating immigration. One group leader said that regime policies, the corruption, and the dependence on Syria are at the base of the immigration of youth. The exiled leader, General Michel Aoun, who opposes the presence of Syrian troops in Lebanon and currently resides in France, said that he was not involved in this demonstration and denounced the oppression of the protesters. In Waziristan, about 20 kilometers from Islamabad, the Sheikh's Tribal Council held a meeting during which they decided to take up arms in order to help the Pakistani authorities to search for members of Al-Qaeda and the Taliban in the western areas of the country. The lawyers of the former British detainees from Guantanamo, Cuba, arrived at the Grand Bennington police station in western London, where the detainees were being held by British authorities for questioning after they returned to Britain yesterday. The British police said that the 4 detainees were arrested according to an article under British law relating to suspected links to terror groups or conspiracy to carry out terrorist acts. The trial of Mark Dutroux continued. The 47-year-old man, who's accused of killing several girls after molesting them and the kidnapping of children in the 1990s. Titia Giliz, one of the 2 victims who managed to escape from the accused in 1996 when she was 14 years old, attended the trial for the first time. Michel Ohal, the 2nd victim, also attended the trial, as well as his former wife, Michelle Dutroux-Martin. The court dismissed claims by Dutroux stating that he was coerced into committing the kidnappings by criminal groups. A U.S. court sentenced John Allen Muhammad, who was known as the Washington Sniper, to death. Muhammad was identified as the sniper after he caused panic in Washington in 2002. This sentence comes in support of another ruling in Virginia last November, after an appeal submitted by Muhammad's attorneys was rejected. The Ministries of Interior, Finance, Commerce, and Saudi Manufacturing prohibited phones that have the capability to take photos from entering the country. In addition to recalling those phones already available on the market, the import and marketing of such products will also be prohibited. They did not provide any details about the decision for the ban. However, some officials expressed their fear that the phones would be exploited for bad things, specifically in regards to violating personal privacy. Israeli special forces assassinated 5 Palestinians east of Jenin in the occupied West Bank. The men belonged to the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, Fath's military wing. Palestinian sources report that the 5 men were martyred during clashes with undercover Israeli forces raiding Jenin for the 2nd consecutive day, adding that the Israeli troops were dressed as Palestinians and attacked and opened fire on a vehicle transporting a group of Palestinians, leading to clashes between the 2 sides. The Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade stated afterwards that their martyred members were wanted by Israeli security agencies that set up an ambush in the Al-Mania district, east of Jenin. Following negotiations with Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak in Cairo, Italian Foreign Minister Franco Fratelli stated that both the Palestinian and Israeli prime ministers will be meeting on March 16. However, the Palestinian Prime Minister's office said that the date for such a meeting has not yet been determined. Meanwhile, Israeli media sources leaked information surrounding a secret meeting between Prime Minister Sharon and the chief of the Egyptian intelligence agency, Omar Suleiman. According to these media sources, the meeting focused on Sharon's plan to disengage from the Palestinians in Gaza. Omar Suleiman also met with Palestinian President Yasser Arafat and discussed the same issue.
Following a secret meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon in occupied Jerusalem, the chief of the Egyptian intelligence agency, Omar Suleiman, paid a quick visit to Palestinian President Yasser Arafat in Ramallah. During the meeting, Suleiman tried to encourage the Palestinian leadership to seriously take steps toward establishing a security plan for Gaza to follow Israel's withdrawal from the area. Arafat did not object to the idea of the withdrawal, but reiterated that any step Israel plans to take in that direction must comply with the roadmap. In addition, similar steps should be taken in the West Bank.
We are fully prepared to assume our responsibilities at all levels. And everyone remembers how the situation was during Rabin and Peres after him. Things were under control on all fronts.
Suleiman, who broke his usual silence that followed all meetings with the Palestinian leadership, seemed to be optimistic, since the Palestinian leadership is willing to work with the Egyptian security experts who will be arriving to the Palestinian territories in the coming days.
We have discussed all these issues, and everything seems to be encouraging and within the framework of the roadmap.
During the meeting, which focused on security issues, Suleiman clarified Egypt's position concerning the Palestinian leadership taking over Palestinian affairs in Gaza after the occupation withdraws. The unilateral disengagement plan is a controversial issue in Israel. The Palestinian side, meanwhile, seems to be forced to go along with this plan after suggestions to discuss this proposal were denied. Nevertheless, Israel will not give the Palestinians any other option except to fill the security gap after they withdraw their army from the Gaza Strip. Reporting for Abu Dhabi TV, Majid Saeed at the presidential compound in Ramallah.
The Palestinian Liberation Front accused the United States of the assassination of its leader Mohammed Abbas, known as Abu Abbas, whom the Pentagon said had died of natural causes in U.S. custody. Nazim Youssef, PLF Politburo member and representative in Lebanon, said they had stopped giving him medicines for 10 days at the detention center in Iraq, and he had been suffering from heart problems and blood pressure. U.S. forces took Abbas into custody in occupied Iraq after ousting Iraqi President Saddam Hussein. He's accused of leading the 1985 hijacking of the Ashile Laura cruise ship. A summit between Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon and his Palestinian counterpart Ahmed Qreh has been lined up for next week, but a source close to Sharon said the date of the summit has not yet been finalized. According to the Haaretz Daily, the meeting has been penciled in for Tuesday. The agenda for the summit will be finalized at a meeting of the two Prime Ministers' bureau chiefs on Sunday. Egyptian Intelligence Services Chief Omar Suleiman is to hold talks Wednesday with Palestinian Chairman Yasser Arafat on Israeli plans to evacuate most Jewish settlements in the Gaza Strip. Israeli radio said that Suleiman and Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon secretly met in occupied Jerusalem to discuss the disengagement plan. They also discussed whether Egypt is able to secure stability in Gaza after the Israeli withdrawal. And Hamas is preparing to unveil a plan for managing the Gaza Strip and the eventuality of an Israeli withdrawal, and will discuss it with the Palestinian Authority. Israeli Minister Ariel Sharon had fine-tuned his disengagement plan from the Palestinians and would put it to the discussion in the Likud party. U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell said the plan might offer an opportunity to relaunch peace as long as a number of conditions are met.
Israeli Premier Ariel Sharon would put his disengagement plan from the Palestinians for discussion at the Likud party for the first time next Monday. Sharon had fine-tuned his plan, which would strengthen control over West Bank settlements. 3 senior U.S. officials are due in Israel Thursday, when Sharon is again to push the Bush administration to back his plan. The premier is expected in Washington at the end of the month, but was seen as reluctant to travel there unless he is confident of having won over the White House. Israeli media had said that Sharon had been infuriated by comments made by Army Chief of Staff General Moshe Ya'alon, who suggested that an upsurge in Palestinian attacks is linked to the separation plan. Ya'alon later sought to play down reports of a rift with Sharon over the subject, saying he held a late-night meeting with the premier on Monday but denied talk of a crisis.